These cookie and cream caramel layer bars are the No Fuss dessert winner of the 48th Pillsbury Bake Off.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone. Now the original recipe asks for a package of Pillsbury Big Deluxe Hershey's refrigerated cookies and cream cookie dough. Can't find that here locally. I don't know if we just don't have it in Canada or if it's just my grocery store. What I did use, however, was this Pillsbury brand refrigerated cookie dough. You could use your own chocolate chip cookie dough recipe, or you could use the refrigerated cookie dough. That's up to you. I crumbled it into a bowl and then added 1/4 cup of dark unsweetened baking cocoa. Now I used my black cocoa that I had, the same stuff I use in the Oreo cookies, but you can use regular cocoa. I stirred it in with a spoon and then blended it in with my hands just to make sure it was well incorporated. Very messy. Then I took an 8 by 8 inch baking dish, lined it with aluminum foil, greased the foil, and then pressed that cookie dough into the bottom of the pan as evenly as I could. And then you bake this at 350 degrees for 18 to 20 minutes until it's set. And then you let it cool for about 20 minutes. Now, the caramel layer. You need 11 ounces of caramel bits or caramel squares. That is about 50 of these little caramel squares that I very carefully unwrapped one at a time. To this, I added 2 tablespoons of whipping cream. Put this in the microwave for about 2 minutes on high until the caramels started to melt. I put it in for about a minute initially, took it out, stirred it, and then every 30 seconds after that, I took it out and continued to stir it to make sure that it wasn't going to scorch. And then I poured that caramel on top of the baked cookie layer and just spread it out as evenly as I could up to the edges. Be careful, this caramel is really hot and it can burn your fingers. Then I took 3/4 cup of chopped pecans and sprinkled them on top of the caramel, and I kind of pressed them down a little bit into the caramel and then put this in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes until the caramel felt kind of dry to the touch and it started to firm up a little bit. Now in a large bowl, place 3 cups of powdered sugar, also known as confectioner's sugar or icing sugar. Added to that 6 tablespoons of melted butter and 6 tablespoons of whipping cream. Then I took my electric mixer, but you can do this by hand, and I just beat it until it was nice and smooth and creamy. And I found it to be a little bit too runny in my opinion, so I added an additional about 1/2 cup of powdered sugar to this, just to thicken it up a little bit, just based on my experience. Then I took that and spread it on top of the pecan layer. Spread it out with the spatula. As you can see, some of the pecans want to come up. That's why I think it's important to press down on those pecans when the caramel is still kind of soft to make sure they don't come up. And I use an offset spatula just to smooth it out. And then I put this in the refrigerator for about an hour, just until it felt dry and firm to the touch. Now for the topping. 3 Hershey's cookies and cream chocolate bars, 43 gram size. I think that's like a 1.55 ounces, something like that. This is what they look like. Little cookie bits in there, white chocolate with cookie bits. And then you just break them apart, put them in a bowl, and then add 2 tablespoons of butter to that. Put this in the microwave for probably 45 seconds or so. It doesn't take long, just until the butter is melted and the chocolate bars start to melt. And just stir it around until it's nicely combined and the butter is combined into the chocolate bar. Then you're going to pour this on top of your cooled, I guess, fondant layer, I suppose what we could call that. Put that on top, spread it around, and this is going to be a very thin layer. Just spread it around and then put it back in the fridge for about 2 hours before you take it out and cut it up into 2 bars. And here they are, cut into pieces. They look awesome because of all those different layers and colors. The caramel is actually very easy to cut into. I was worried about that. It once had been refrigerated, but actually quite easy to slice into. They are delicious. They're really good. I'm not going to lie. The only thing I didn't like is I found that frosting or fondant layer, whatever you want to call it, was too thick. I think if we were to make this again, I would cut that in half and I would double the amount of chocolate bars, so you'd have a thicker cookies and cream layer on top. I think that would make them even better. That's what Max and I think. My husband, however, loved that frosting fondant layer, and he liked it just the way it was. The other thing is too that these should be kept refrigerated, because if you leave them at room temperature, once they're cut up, that caramel is going to soften and start to ooze a little bit. Overall, I can see why it won for Best No Fuss Dessert for this year for the 48th Bake Off. If you enjoy Pillsbury Bake Off recipes, I actually did one of a prize-winning recipe from 1953, and these are turtle cookies. So why don't you click on your screen to check these out. Thanks for watching.